How you doing, guys? Today I thought I would just run through the parts that will be put into the Briggs & Stratton 5 horsepower L head vertical shaft engine for the rug carpet cut. You know, it looks like a lot of parts, and there's a whole bunch of parts getting thrown at this motor. Some of the parts I got at really good prices because I had picked them up at the Wheel Horse show with the anticipation of doing another one of these motors, not this particular motor, but one of these motors in general. Overall, all in, if I had paid full price for all the parts, it would have been, even including the price of the motor, it would have been about $300, which I feel is a fairly good price to resurrect one of these vintage engines, to put it back on the appropriate, or theoretically the appropriate lawn equipment that it came off of. So with that being said, I will let you know the parts that I got at the Wheel Horse show versus the ones I got online, or I bought them all online, but bought online in order to get this thing together. Right out of the gate, let's jump into it deep. Let's talk about the carburetor. This is a carburetor, a whole one of what, 8 or 9 of these carburetors I got at the Wheel Horse show for $1. The part number 299448 is not the correct part number for this model engine, which is a 130000 and up. This is a 5 horse. This carburetor happens to be for a 4 horse version of these engines. The only difference that I could find, other than the part number 1 and number 2, was the actual mounting screw for the air cleaner. The carburetor that came on this engine, which is right over here, had a larger screw, or a bigger diameter screw, holding the air cleaner onto the air horn. All the other dimensions of the carburetor are exactly the same. That necessitated that I buy a new screw, a smaller diameter screw for a 4 horse engine, so I could screw the air cleaner to the carburetor. But so it's getting a new carburetor. Now, in theory, there's absolutely nothing wrong with this carburetor, or this gas tank for that matter. It just would need to be completely cleaned, and I just want it to look, I want the engine to look like it's brand new, essentially. And that's the reason why I'm swapping this part. So, a necessity? No. But for the project, new carburetor. Same thing with the gas tank. This is an NOS gas tank that I had downstairs. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have used it for this project, but again, I want the project to be almost like a brand new looking engine, right? So I just went ahead and swapped out the original for an NOS one. There's absolutely nothing wrong with this gas tank. It's actually super clean inside, to be honest, and I'm going to save these parts for possibly a future engine. It's not even crashed or anything, but again, I wanted it to be white, the tank that is, and I just wasn't gonna glass bead it and clean, because it's gonna get glass bead in it no matter what I do. It's gonna be nearly impossible to get all that glass bead out and over the, and I just wasn't gonna do it. All right, eventually I'll spray it all down, clean it all up, scuff it, and paint it some other color. But for this project, I decided to just go ahead and use an NOS gas tank. Was it needed? No. So you can kind of subtract any cost structures associated with the carburetor and the gas tank. As part of the carburetor or the induction system, if we want to call it, again, I got a screw so I can mount the air cleaner to the carburetor. The governor springs, the 2 governor springs and throttle spring, were both overextended and overstretched. So this was cheap money. I went ahead and bought these off of eBay. They're the 2 correct springs for a 5 horsepower engine, so we're going to go ahead and get those new. This is a part that I got at the Wheel Horse show, again, for $1. It's the plate control, which is this thing right here. Whoa, we're almost, there we go. That could have been a mess. Anyways, as you can see, it's rusty, and I just didn't feel like glass beating it. So, and I got the other one for $1. So why not just use a new one? A necessity? No. You know, I didn't necessarily need that. I did get a new pull handle, rope pull handle. I got this off of Amazon with tax and shipped and received the next day. This was $3.17. It's an Oregon, but it's the exact same shape, style that was on this motor. Now, was it the original one to this motor? I don't know, but that is going to be replaced. I also got a new rope clutch. It's the piece that ratchets for the thing. The one on the motor was fine, but again, I got this one for $1 at the Wheel Horse show. I'm just going to replace it. So necessity, no. Necessity, yes, because the one that I had, the one that was on the motor was all dried out, cracked, and broken. Rectifier, I got a new rectifier for the motor. This was a necessity because the motor didn't have a rectifier. It had the stator in it, but the rectifier was MIA. New module, ignition module for the motor. Aftermarket, cheap, got it off of eBay. Valves, let's talk valves. Valves, intake and exhaust. Both the I'm starting to stumble, sorry. Both the valves were bought at the Wheel Horse show for $1 a piece. These are a necessity in my opinion. I would have paid full price online somewhere for a new intake and a new exhaust because I want to cut the seats and then lap a brand new valve into those seats, giving me the best situation to have a good seal. The other thing I did is I bought 2 brand new exhaust springs. I put an exhaust spring on an intake valve in these motors. I actually got that idea from Terrell Fixes All. I saw him do it years ago, and I decided to give it a shot on a motor, and I will agree with him. That extra seat pressure on the intake valve does make that engine a little bit more snappy. I think the engines run more solid. I think they definitely have a more snappy sound to them. And, you know, whether or not that makes a material difference, I don't know, power-wise, but definitely compression-wise and sound-wise, there is a difference just by swapping out the softer intake spring with an exhaust spring. So we'll be doing that. The keepers we're just going to reuse. Right next to that is a little box with the oil seals. This part number I can't remember is the top seal or the PTO seal. But both the seals are in there. And you gotta have kind of have new seals. I've shown you engine rebuilds with old seals, and it works fine. But especially the PTO one, since all the oil is just sitting on it, you definitely want to get some new seals. So that's what we did here. The breather assembly, I did get a new breather assembly. Was it required? No, but I wanted to paint the assembly white so it matched the look of the motor. The original one was green and covered in oil, and there was no way that I was going to be able to get all the oil out of it, and even crazy thinking of glass beading it, because it would just gotten filled with the glass bead and just would have been a disaster. Just easier to get a new one, scuff it down, paint it white. So that's what we did. The governor, all right, the actual governor and the oil slinger, I did get a new one. The reason why I got a new one is if we take a look at this one, there's like this little flapper, I guess you would call it. It's supposed to be straight. It's bent, and there appears to be a crack in it for whatever reason. And I just don't want this thing getting flinged off at some point in time while I'm running this engine. So this is cheap. I think I paid $8 for it all together. So just went ahead and got a new one, and that is the correct part number for it. This is the little retention spring that goes between the governor and the camshaft. It creates that little bit of preload on both pieces so they're not flopping around. The one that was in the motor was really worn down, so I went ahead and got a new one there. Piston assembly. Got a new set of rings. Have the 10 over piston. Got a new rod, and the new and the new wrist pin is in here too. It actually came with the piston, but these are the correct part numbers for the 5-horse engine. Had all these gaskets in stock already. So just going to be able to just put the engine together. I did not have the seals. That's why I bought these here. Let's see, what else do we have? I think that's then I have a new flywheel spring washer that's coming, and then I have a secret little weapon that's coming, which I'll show you later on, just to finish the thing off. A lot of the parts will be reused. Obviously, the valve keepers are going to be reused. This is the intake tube. These are the governor and throttle rods. I cleaned them and straightened them all out. I'm going to reuse the stator. I'm not going to replace that. I checked it with my own meter. It appears to be perfect. Unfortunately, the motor had this plastic insert to the air filter. I wish it was a metal one, but it is what it is. We're going to wash it and reuse it. Basically, all the bolts in this pan need to be cleaned. Oh, this is the spring washer I was talking about with the flywheel. I don't know if I could show you this. Let's see if we can get this thing to focus. And so, oh, there, you can see right there, it's cracked. And there was another crack. Let's see, can we do it? There's another crack right there. So there's a crack here and a crack right there. So one more torque and that chunk of the washer is going to come flying out, or break off. This is the tension washer for the cam and the governor, and you can see if you take a look at how wavy that is compared to this one. This one's nearly flat, and it does have some pretty good wear marks on it in general. So that's the reason why I went ahead and replaced that. Overall, just got to clean these bolts and put them back in. All right, guys, not the most exciting video in the world, but definitely I think it's a indicator of how I approach rebuilding engines. Hopefully this helps. I think it's a thought process that you should entertain, which is basically, let's take a look at each and every part and make a decision as to whether or not we use it or do we replace it. The ultimate goal is to have a good, solid running engine, right? I mean, this engine made it nearly 40 years. So in theory, I want to rebuild it to a point where we can get another 40 years out of it. At that point in time, it might be all done, but it'll be back in service, running and having fun with us. All right, with that, thank you very much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, please leave a comment below. And until we meet again, you have a great day.